on the previous episode of Talk That Talk.
I'm gonna take a different perspective, and this is no pun, but this is just facts. You got to look at what are the schools that are being disrespectful. Maybe they have a disrespectful culture at that particular university. Like no lie, like for years when the great Dr. Griggs was over Southern, as soon as like the bands was like marching in, they was blowing on the band. Would that be considered disrespectful? Or remember a few years past when I forgot who was on the field, but Talladega was in the stands. I think that was Queen City or something like that. They literally was about to start marching, and then they started playing while they're lining up on the field, about to start their show. I think the drum major was about to do their entrance. Isn't that disrespectful? Like, and I think Miles, returned the favor to Talladega. I've seen schools uh march on the field. I think it was Alabama State marched on the field one year with Tuskegee, was still doing that dance routine. So if you look at all of those things, I don't think we're disrespecting the students, but you have to ask yourself, is that university, do they have a culture of being disrespectful? And you have to pinpoint those isolated events. Um, Also, Mario, I think coming from the SWAC, we did look at um the MEAC as a quote unquote more friendly, but I look at it now as I'm older and more mature. It was a better sense of bandsmanship and sportsmanship. So it's like I'm gonna allow you to take your field, you do your thing, and if you did better than me on the field, you did better than me on the field. But it's not going to turn over into something else. And then lastly, to address that Prairie View Southern fight, that was disrespect because the drum major, if you talk to anybody, he was marching through the band.
Yeah.
And then that's when they popped off with the fight. You see what I'm saying? So even though, those are situations, you got to look at it. What's the culture of that university? And I'm not knocking Southern because I'm from Louisiana and they've been consistent for years. But they have a real talk, a disposition like if you ain't march for Southern, really F you and F what you stand for. And that's disrespectful on its own. You know, that's just my take on it.
All right. Maya, have we lost our respect for the students?
No, I wouldn't say that. Now, I do want to take it back to the way that you prefaced the question, right? So you originally included the DJ and what happened this past weekend at Southern. So I think if we're including that, there is a disrespect, but maybe that's not a more so of a disrespect to students. Maybe it's just disrespect to sportsmanship in general, right? So I think that just as we've been talking about, there lies some certain, not necessarily animosity, but when you come in and you do things, right? When we go to Southern, I can bet, right? I would tell the girls when we go to Jackson and when we go to Southern, 9 times out of 10, they're going to play while we're marching in. So you need to pay up, make sure that you're listening and watching the drum edge because you're not going to be able to see. Like, there are certain things that I think that are okay. That's good, like bands and shit. That's just like, hey, we're in competition. When we get here, we're already rivals, or this is already an anticipated type of game or event. So let's go ahead and pay up to it and make sure that we make it the best that it can be. However, when we start to include, maybe this goes back to the conversation of, putting too much leeway on people who have never marched a day in their life. If we're talking about the DJ in itself, right? For you to feel the need to play, if you're trying to, make sure that Southern knows that, oh, we disrespecting PV all day, every day, they don't get nothing, then that's a whole different type of thing. That's where the disrespect comes into play, because I can bet 9 times out of 10, either you're a current student, the DJ that was playing is a current student, an alumni, or somebody homegrown or very near and dear to the city, right? So you have no odds or ends. You have nothing line. You have no guns in this particular fight. So yeah, there's disrespect there because this has nothing to do with you. This is between these two bands and what they came to do for the business of their culture, of the band culture. Now you parting ways in, sure. Now that's disrespect to the students. But in terms of the question in general, no, I don't think so. But I do think that people having too much insight, having too much leverage, having too much to say, having too much hands-on experiences that have nothing to do with them, that's a whole totally different subject, in which I think that's what this falls under, for lack of better words.
Okay. All right. Rick, have we lost our respect for the students?
I want to look at it from a couple of different perspectives. I say yes and no. First thing is this. The fact of the matter is you have a lot of goons, Goon, as band directors. A doctorate degree doesn't make you a nice person or a kind person or a good person. It just makes you a little more qualified to do what you, on paper, to do what you do. We've already talked about on our show how a band picks up the personality of the person that's in front of them. I remember, and it happens once a year, that picture of the PV students standing in front of Texas Southern's band room apologizing for acting like they were peeing on the bus. That seems to be like this like worldwide joke. It gets a laugh every year, turns into this argument for like 2 or 3 days, and then everybody goes on. But the fact that we can't even respect each other enough as Black people to say there has to be a line drawn in the sand. Competition is fine. Competition makes us better as a people. You know what I'm saying? Like that part is fine. But when it becomes disrespectful and no longer moves the culture forward, then that's where I draw the line. Do I think we should? I was assistant band director at PV at the time that happened. I was not in agreement that we should have went over there and stood our kids up in front of the band room and did that. However, there has to be some type. Going to college, you're going there to learn. You're not going there to be that person from your neighborhood. It used to boil my blood, man, when I was in college and all these people from DC and New York tried to act like they were the hardest things in the world. Dude, you a college student. You not in that mess that you did in your neighborhood. But you couldn't tell them that, boy.
Boxing matches in the towers on the 6th floor.
Straight we in the party out. Man, I never, you know how it is, Mario. We in the party having a good old time.
Bless you.
Let some crunk music come on. You better, everybody. Well, here go DC and New York.
Right. About to fight. Baltimore in there too.
Right. And we sitting there like, dude, all these fine women in here, and y'all sitting up there worried about each other just because a song made you. That doctrine of ethos is real, boy. I swear. Music, it affects your attitude and your spirit. If you don't know what the doctrine of ethos is, go look that up, y'all. But yeah, man, like these bands are a product of the people that stand in front of them. Dr. Sam, Quan, you brought up Norfolk. The reason why that mentality was there was because of Dr. Sanford. And the bands that he didn't like, the band directors he didn't like, we never played them. Ever. We never played Bethune-Cookman the years I was in the band. Then they finally went to FAM.
03.
Yeah, after I got out of band. Right. Mm-hmm. And that turned into a fight. Like, like you have to
dude punch Tori in the face.
Yeah. Like the answer is yes. We have lost disrespect because we never had respect for one another.